What's going on, everybody? James here, RedoptionAgency.com, 23 years selling full-time on eBay, and welcome to another reaction video. This one I've been needing to get to. I was told about it, and we're going to get to it now. Finally, I need a little distraction with Pee-wee today in the hospital still. So today's video is going to be Josh Galt. 10 things I've learned from the best eBay and e-commerce sellers. So he said he did a live the other day. He said he did this top 10 thing I could check out, and then at the beginning of the video. So we'll go ahead and check that out and see what all he's talking about here. Of course, the original video will be linked below. Of course, follow Josh if you are not already. Please like this video, subscribe to this channel, and let's get into see what's going on here. Let me get the volume turned up, get everything prepped here. It's been a busy weekend, so let's go.
Hi everyone, my name is Josh. I am an antique seller online. My business is WHS Stereo View, Wilson Harbor Sales, WHS Antiques, and my goal is to save America.
One piece at a time.
One item at a time. Today I am feeling very motivated. I've been wanting to talk about this for a while, but I want to talk about 10 things that I've kind of taken from some of the best sellers out there. So Amazon, eBay, e-commerce sellers, big shots like Larry Gagosian, David Senra. I consider him a big shot. What are the common traits? And if we know the common traits, then maybe we ourselves can adopt those traits, or we can just kind of look at it with perspective. So I want to go over that today. It is almost Christmas. I want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas before we get started. Merry Christmas, Biff Boffo. Merry Christmas, Jen. Merry Christmas to every...
We're past Christmas, obviously.
Buddy, this will be my last one
before
we go on break. So let's get into it. Why don't we get started? You know it's going to be a banger when I've got notes. I will say...
I still see Vern in the background. He's right about here, over Josh's left eye in the back. Still got the Vern sticker up.
That I believe the top eBayers, the top sellers on eBay specifically, because that's really my niche, watch this podcast. The reason I say that is because it's one of the traits, and it's not on my list, but it's one of the traits is always learning and always listening to people who are speaking the same language. So just as they watch me, I watch them.
And that's a good point. Even if it's just in the background, you pick up stuff subconsciously. Everybody on YouTube, whether you like them or not, you can find something in there that you might be able to use and benefit your business and what you're doing. So a lot of information out there.
And from them,
not just information, but experiences. You know, experience is information. How somebody reacts to something, how somebody does something, you know, every little piece of information just one piece of information can change your life. So always keep your eyes and ears open.
Because some of them are much more successful than me. I can find these traits. I can find them from just consuming so much information, reading so many books, and I want to go over these top 10 things without further ado. This first one, number one. So here's number one. Number one, consistency over intensity. I put this as number one because it had such a huge impact on me. I took this from David Senra, who took it from someone else. There's an idea that everything has already been done and everything has already been thought of. We just re-engineer things to better suit our customers and solve our customers' problems.
It's almost just like music. You know, every riff has been written. You're just taking something to create your own song. So just taking a bunch of different pieces of all these resellers and sellers and business people's way of doing things and creating your own song out of it.
But consistency over intensity. I take this as meaning as a business person, if you want to be successful on eBay or any other platform, consistency pays better than intensity. The top eBay sellers are consistent. They list consistently, they ship consistently, they build routines into their days, and those days and those routines and those processes are repeated over and over and over.
That's one thing that I think a lot of people, especially eBay sellers who happen to embrace YouTube, whether that's making content and or watching content, is the lack of consistency, the lack of structure, the lack of making sure you do X amount every day, et cetera, and just keep that routine. And plus, makes as a if you work out of your home, it makes it even a little bit harder because there's family distractions and stuff going on too. So being able to stay consistent sometimes takes a lot of hard work and a lot of structure to keep it going, because it can be difficult on a lot of days.
And as they grow their business and as they move on in time, the processes become refined, but naturally refined. Like, how can I do this a little bit faster and a little bit better? And naturally they become refined over time, but they are consistent. They are consistent. They are consistent before intensity. When I see intensity come into the space, I can do this, I can do that, I can sell this, I can sell that. Those people tend to do very well for a short period of time. It's like
it's just they're more about the show off, the showcasing over the actual results. So yeah,
bonfire, but eventually it burns out. And the consistent person, like the tortoise versus the hare, will continue and continue, and eventually it's like the old story, you eventually beat the hare. So people who are very successful in this space are consistent, much more consistent than they are intense. Intensity should be a red flag. You can be intense in a short period of time and achieve great things, but can you do it for a month, 5 months, a year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years?
This is actually a really good point. I'm really liking this first, and we're just on number one. I'm really, 100% on that. Just, I like to quote Tommy Lee from Motley Crue: "You can't be all the time." Yeah.
And maintain that intensity. That's why consistency always wins. Number 2, I love this one as well. The people who are doing very well on eBay, e-commerce in general, are building businesses, not hustles. They are looking to build a business, not a hustle.
How many times have I said that?
A hustler is out there finding, what can I turn quickly? What can I make money on now?
As I say, the hustler is for today. The business is for tomorrow.
Businesses are looking at, what can I build this into? What can this look like down the road? What can this look like down the road? How can I structure this maybe that I can sell it one day? How can I create processes that I can bring employees in? And I think there's nothing wrong with being a hustler, but the people who are doing very well are building businesses. They want to build businesses. Their intention is not to be a hustler.
The thing about some hustles too, hustle is just kind of almost a negative connotation, because a hustler to me will do a little wrong to put the money in their pocket, where somebody building a business wants to do it all, mostly by the books, do it properly so that it's a long-term situation. A hustle can just be somebody just trying to get, like a used car salesman, if you will, just trying to hustle to get that next car moved, and will say anything to get that car sold. It's not their business. They're doing the hustle of a business. So for hustle, it's always been a negative word for me.
Building a business is more difficult than hustling. Building a business is proper accounting, proper taxes, building processes, um, proper reporting. You're really watching your margins. You're going in areas which you can excel at that provide opportunity in time rather than just in the short term. So it's this short term versus long term. Building partnerships. If you're building a business, you're building partnerships. If you're thinking about short term, all that matters is immediate gain. You don't need to build partnerships if you're a hustler.
You're burning bridges more than
You would be in your intention to build a relationship would be to somehow take from that person if you're a hustler, if you're in it for the short term.
Yep.
If you're in it for the long term, you're building a business. And the best I see on here are building businesses. Number three, this is another big one. Number three, let's have a sip of coffee for number three.
Number three. How about
Love this one, and it took me a year to
that?
figure this out, at least, maybe 2. People that are killing it on here, on eBay, e-commerce, they're not afraid to try new things, and they cut their losses quickly. I was always
experimenting,
failure avoidant. I talked about it a lot on here. I was embarrassed when I failed at things. Mm-hmm. I was afraid to try new things because if something was working, I'd want to focus on that. I didn't want to deviate. But people who are really, really successful are constantly trying new things. What if I did this? That doesn't work? Then who cares? I'll try this. I'll try that. And it's kind of your job to try new things. Nothing will stay the same forever. If you stay the same forever, you're not going to grow. So people that are killing it, they're not afraid to try new things. I'll try this. If it doesn't work, then I won't do it. Then I'll try that. And if that doesn't work, I won't do it anymore. And then when the thing works, they pour gas on it. And once they get the processes down and everything is kind of put into their business the way they want it on the new thing that's working, they'll try something else and they'll try something else. And eventually they'll find a thing that really works. So they aren't afraid to try new things. Number 4, they're problem solvers. This is huge. This is huge. This took me probably 2 years to fully understand. Every problem is an opportunity. Every problem is an opportunity to solve that problem. And when you solve that problem, you get ahead of your competition because your competition might be not able to solve those problems. So every problem becomes an opportunity. Your number one job as an entrepreneur.
See, I like this. I'm having a hard time concentrating just because my mind's elsewhere today. But the one cool thing about when there's a problem, and a problem for me means find a new door to open. And I love that adventure of finding that something new, that next door. And for the longest time, I've been stuck just and more so with the amount of responsibilities I've had on me over the past, 6-7 years with my father and Vern and now Pee Wee, Jan's health and what have you, that I've had to put a lot of that in the back seat and just kind of roll with everything. And unfortunately, I'm back at that again where I have to roll with it because even today, I had to go and take food out to the hospital for Pee Wee because he hasn't eaten in like 5 days. And, and then that on my mind, it stifles me a lot. So I'm unfortunately still kind of there, but I'm trying to separate it better. I'm trying to be better at separating it. The moments that I am standing here, be focused on what I need to be focused on, as opposed to I can't do nothing focusing on Pee Wee. I gotta let the doctors and the people at the hospital worry about that right now. So, and it's hard, easier said than done, but I've kind of lost that adventure spirit over these past 6-7 years. just because I had to. I couldn't. I didn't have the freedom to do that, so I've had to just stay this pace. But now I'm trying to find it within my system. I mean, I've built a decent system. With the all the back stock of goods I have that I can sell. So I'm trying to focus on creating that within my system, where hey, what's in that far corner of that storage locker number 3? You know what I mean? So I'm trying to change focus a little bit on that. So and make the adventure internal as opposed to because I built that. So why not take advantage of that?
Entrepreneur, as an e-commerce seller, is problem solving. What is it that my customer needs? Can I provide it for them to them at a good price? What are their pain points? What are their issues? And then all the other problems that come along with, are there issues on this platform? Maybe I need to go to this one as well. Am I getting audited? I got to go through the audit. But every one of those problems, when you pass through it, it's like a gate to success, because some people won't be able to pass that. So if you're experiencing a problem, I encourage you to switch your mindset and see a problem as an opportunity to solve that problem. Great businesses solve problems. And you can't solve a problem if the problem doesn't present itself in the first place. Great entrepreneurs know this. They know that every problem is an opportunity. So don't be problem avoided. If it shows up, put on the cap of, great, this is something that I can fix and solve. I love that. I absolutely love that. Number 5 is another one that, again, I see a lot of sellers struggle with this one, but the big sellers don't seem to have a problem with it. And that is, you act with intention rather than being reactional. So rather than reacting, you act with intention.
And this is another one that I've failed on for the last many years, is because just rolling with the things. When you get into that rolling mode, you let the problems come first instead of getting ahead of things. And yeah, I mean, one good example of that nowadays would be, say, with vintage clothing. What are those people doing? Did they see this crash coming? Well, I saw it coming because I know I've been doing it long enough to see trends come and go. But how many of those vintage clothes sellers who are always at the bins, the Goodwill outlets, how many of them are not going to be around anymore because what they were doing is just gone by the wayside? And they were just rolling with what was there. They weren't being productive. They weren't building. They were a hustle. And now that that's kind of fallen apart, will they be able to shift if they want to keep doing this? And maybe it's something they don't want to do any further because their love was the vintage clothing market. So that's another thing too there.
Does this serve my business? Is this an emotion I'm feeling, or is this something that is going to negatively impact my business? If a customer is upset and says something, do you just say you're sorry and let it go away, or do you battle it? Are you going to fight it? Nobody does that to me.
That's one thing a lot of people do wrong, is lead with emotion. And it's non-avoidable. I mean, I've done it. We're humans. We're emotional characters. That's why the good thing about online sales and doing this all online is you're not face to face with the person, so you don't have that person in your face yelling at you. It's on an email, so you can take a step back and remove yourself from it for an hour, then come back and address it without any emotions involved. That's the best way to do it. But I'm sure everybody's been a victim of their own emotions at one point or another in their life. And with business, it's you just have to make sure you keep yourself more in check with the emotion than, say, real life.
That's reactional. That's an emotional reaction. Great businesses don't respond emotionally, generally. They are intentional. strategic. Great sellers on here are intentional and strategic, and it's really hard to do. And sometimes I have to take a breath myself because something's happening that really is bothering me, or it's just the way something is presented or the way I have an interaction, and it really bothers me. And I have to take a step back sometimes and think, what's the logical way to move forward? How do I act with intention? What part of this is me using my own logic and my business sense, and what part of it is me reacting emotionally? I told this story before that I've had dealers that I've worked with kick me out of their store. They were so upset. And my emotional reaction would be to never go back. But my business reaction is, let's try again. I'll just show up again with coffee and we'll see what happens, and we'll talk. And we'll see if we can build this relationship. Maybe I said something wrong. Maybe I offended them. Maybe
they were having a bad day and they took things emotionally.
Reacting emotionally, but I think I can fix this. And if you act with intention and you persist, and great businesses on here understand that, you will find a lot more success than if you react emotionally.
Ontario.
I love that. And honestly, applying these principles to my business, especially this year, have caused a great deal of growth. A great deal of growth. Again, my business is up. My business is up this year over year, $80,000. It might not sound like a ton of money. That's my whole business.
And the cool thing about Josh, what he's doing, he zeroed in on something he loves with these stereo views, and he's building something off of that, not just selling them, right? He's building a registry so that the collectors are put in this registry. So there's a path to where all these items are going. And I've always wanted to do something like that with just common stuff, but never came up with an idea on how to do it properly, because it's very hard to number, a hat or a shirt. But I've always wanted to create like a trail, because it could be so easily done with today's, since everybody's online. Hey, where's this shirt been in the last 30 years? Say in 30 years from now. Somebody could go in and type in a certain number that I gave with this shirt, and they could see the history of where this shirt has been. I always wanted to do something like that, but I figured it was a lot of work for just a bunch of random stuff. But I love the fact that he's found something and able to do that with just this one thing, and it's made it quite convenient and cool.
It's on the whole, but it's only me working. And this is phenomenal growth. And this is 3 years of phenomenal growth for me. And I can honestly say that a lot of this growth comes from applying these principles that other people are already doing. They've learned it the hard way. If we can just pick it up off of them and apply it to our own business.
Right.
You're laughing. Okay, number 6, I've always done this, but it is super important. The great businesses on here, I have noticed, reinvest into their businesses. Not afraid to reinvest into their business. They are not playing for the now. They are playing for the 5 years from now. That's kind of like that hustle.
As I say all the time, I don't list for today. I list for tomorrow, next week, next month, next year.
Business mentality again. They're not playing for the now. They're playing for the 5 years from now. If you are buying, selling, buying, selling, buying, selling, but
I used to be very good at predicting. I keep using it as an excuse, and that's what it is, an excuse. The last 8 years, 7, 8 years, 6, 8 years, whatever it is. Time gets away from me, and I don't try not to think about it. But I used to be able to stay ahead of everything. I could predict what the hot sale toy was going to be every Christmas. Me and Jan would go out and get them before they took off. Like the, what were they called? They had them at Walgreens a lot. this was probably, I don't even know, '09 or something. Those animal pillows, I forget what they were called. So ever since like the Tickle Me Elmo, I always predicted what would be the next big thing that fall on Christmas. You don't really see that anymore. Like I didn't see it this past Christmas, but then again, I wasn't paying attention. So my future sight has been very limited by my excuses in the last many years. And being able to predict, I knew the vintage clothing would eventually go out. Back in 2004 and 5, I tried to talk Jan into it, and of course she wouldn't go with it, but I wanted to start buying mid 80s square body cars because I knew one day those were going to be hot again. And if you look in the past, 3, 4, 5 years to now, those mid 80 cars are selling for good money that we could have picked up for, $1,200, $2,000 back when I wanted to do it. But of course, we don't have the room for that anyway to store cars. So I've always been pretty good at doing that, and I really would like to get my head focused back around stuff like that, to be able to see what the next thing is for tomorrow, get that going today, so when tomorrow's here, you're reaping the benefits from that.
Your time is used up. You're not playing for the 5 years from now unless you are so profitable that you can hire someone and teach them the exact same thing that you're doing. I know that people building businesses and doing very, very well on eBay and other platforms are operating with intention, and they're building businesses. Can I take myself out of the equation in 5 years? Is this a sector that's going to get stronger in 5 years, or at least stay the same? What's the competition looking like? Can I build processes within my business that other people can do? Can I create an inventory system that is easy for someone else to use? These kinds of questions are not great for the right now, but in the 5 years from now, they will pay dividends.
When I first started, I was doing just basically 99% media. And my very first separation or organizing was alphabetical. And I learned real quick, do not do that, because especially with some CDs, people don't always know its last name first. When you get a classical CD and there's so much written on the spine, nobody knows if that goes under Mozart or if it goes under, Feinstein, if it goes under the composer or the conductor. And so things, I learned real quick not to do that. So yeah, organizing was my big learning point when I first started when it came to organizing.
And great business owners and great e-commerce sellers.
Sorry, because at that point I had a couple employees who were helping me, and so when they would go file, things would wind up in different spots. So finish on that thought.
And great eBayers know this. I watch their videos. They can say whatever they want, but what I see behind them is highly organized, well-disciplined inventory system. They're not losing items. They're not playing the cancellation game or doing any of this stuff. They're shipping on time, shipping every day. Everything is done with intention. They are building businesses. They're not as concerned about the right now. They're building businesses and processes for 5 years from now. I think it's a great mentality. I hope this is landing, because I hope I'm saying this right. That was number 6, by the way, because this has all had a huge, huge impact on me. These are like nuggets that I've picked up over years, and they've really landed with me. And then I'm going to get into the chat after. I love this one. This is kind of a reiteration of our previous point, but number 7 is they don't fear failure or ridicule. Failure is a good thing. If you fail at something, it's really actually awesome. It teaches you what not to do. It crosses some.
Before he gets into that, I'm going to elaborate on this a little bit on my experience too. Let me pause that so he's not looking all weird and looking at me funny. But you can play a lot of that into the emotion part too, and a lot of it not just with eBay, but with YouTube as a whole too. And now I've kind of lost my thought.
If you don't fail, you don't know what to cross off the list.
Oh.
And
When you tie the failure in with emotions, then your reactions are more emotion based. I'm sorry, I can't keep my head straight. Let's
the
just go.
more
Let's
you fail in
listen.
the beginning, the better, because then at least you're not making those mistakes at scale. It took me a while to understand that. I said it before and I'll say it again. I was embarrassed of my failures. I'm one of the few people. Now, this might not be, actually, that's not true. I'm not going to say that. I'm not one of the few people, but I will say I have been building this very publicly on eBay, my business, on YouTube. So,
and you got to get over all that emotion part of it too, because where I was going with it is you can get defensive. And when you get defensive, that's not productive. And all that can, that's when you can bring in, especially like you just said, doing it publicly. You have a lot of, as I call them, dead raccoons who want you to stop and smell them. But there's no emotion in this. You gotta keep the emotion out. My emotions wrapped up in my puppy, in my family, in my happiness. Failing is a lesson. Getting emotional or distracted, there's just no point in it. There's really no point. You have to separate all that.
You can watch my YouTube videos from the beginning and you can see the ups and downs that I go through and the many, 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 many failures that I've gone through. Really just documenting it live on live broadcasts. I was embarrassed. It was upset. I couldn't sleep. I was so embarrassed when I'd fail.
That's where I was going. Because when you're embarrassed and you're feeling like that, you're feeling embarrassing. Embarrassed is an emotion, and when you are emotional, you react differently. So if somebody attacks you and you're feeling like emotional about the failure, you feel embarrassed about it, you're going to react different. And it's just going to go down a road that there's no need to go down. Learning to avoid that is huge. And now I gotta take this. Hello. Yeah, I'll try to do that. I never got on there. I've never been onto their website, so I'll pull out a thing and check it. All right. How much did you need? Okay. Okay. All right. I'll get on there and see what I can see. Okay. All right. I took food out there for him too. They said he still ain't eating. So, and I know that new medicine can suppress and can take like 2 weeks for a dog to get used to. So, I don't know. Right. So hopefully, yeah, yeah. So, no. Yeah. All right. Yeah. All right. Bye. Sorry.
But the more I failed, the more I'm like, oh, this again. I don't really care. Because failing means you're trying something. And if you're not successful at it, just cross it off the list and then I'll try something else. That's not a big deal. Failure's not all that bad. And I started when I was consuming information, people who were critical, saying that they've never had any failures, I started understanding that those were not genuine people. Like just cross.
No, they're not real people. Chances are they're just sitting behind a computer, not doing a damn thing, not trying anything, let alone failing. You can't, you know, if you're not failing, you're not trying. It's just as simple as that. So you're just sitting there doing nothing. Just, you're not failing because you're not doing anything. Period.
Cross them off the list. Don't listen.
Right.
These people, everyone experiences failures. It's part of being human.
Dead raccoons.
And it's okay. We're entrepreneurs. I tried it. Didn't work. Who gives a shit? I'll try something else. It doesn't really matter. It's not the end of the world. What is worse is if, failures at scale, but even that, you learn something, you get up, you dust yourself off, and you try again. But I would rather make these mistakes, simple mistakes, while the business is small, than when the business is bigger and the consequences are bigger. It's just crossing stuff off the list. Create a failure pile. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, but the good thing about making mistakes when you're bigger is you usually have more financial stability to get you through those failures a little bit easier. So it's a little bit easier to take once you're bigger and you're more established and you have financial stability than at the beginning too. So it can be a very overwhelming at the beginning, but if you make them later, don't be too afraid because you've got better financial stability to get you through those failures.
Oh, yes. Number 8. Number 8 is amazing. They have great entrepreneurs, great founders, great business owners, great eBayers, great e-commerce sellers have a high threshold for pain.
Look, I'm watching this and I know I'm commenting on it, but I still have a hard time thinking of myself as, well, obviously great, but like entrepreneur. Like I'm just a freaking dude who came from South City with nothing. And yet I was able to try to, figure things out. I didn't go to school for any of this. I didn't get, nobody taught me. I don't have no degree in business or nothing like that. I'm just freaking normal dude off the street. So if I can figure it out, damn well anybody else can, because I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed. I barely got through high school. I don't claim to be the smartest. I just try to learn what I like and stay with what I know, and we can have a in-depth conversation on the stuff I love, but I ain't going to be able to sit here and talk to you about quantum physics or anything. Well, maybe a little bit, but you know what I mean? So even if you have a hard time looking at yourself as a business owner or an entrepreneur, just remember, if you're doing it, you technically are. So you don't have to necessarily embrace it, but just go with it.
A high threshold for pain. It is almost as if they like feeling a little bit off balance. It's like lifting weights. You get the gains in the pain.
Pain is motivation.
The last couple sets, those burning hard sets, that's where you get your gains. And I think it's similar in business. I listen to some of these podcasts and I read books of entrepreneurs who have had these like crazy things happen because as an entrepreneur, you're solving problems. You're a problem solver. You're the number one problem solver. It's always issues. They come to you. You have to deal with them. But as you kind of build up your muscle with that, things that for your normal average person might seem like a huge deal, entrepreneurs like, especially a veteran, they're like, okay, well, no big deal. They're used to it. Maybe I can make payroll. Maybe I can't. Maybe I can make this bill. Maybe I can't. Maybe this, maybe that. All these things happening all at once.
When I first started, like I said before, I had to, we couldn't get business loans, especially if you told them you had a business on eBay. Nobody understood that when I started. And hell, they didn't really until about 6, 7, 8, 10 years ago. The amount of struggle that I had financially, because the game plan was to accumulate debt by buying by bulk over time. But the amount of times I had to shuffle cards I probably had 4 and 5 cards at one time, shuffling what I can, where I can to pay who, when I needed to pay them. And it was stressful. It was hard. Um, Jan probably took it harder than I did because she couldn't see my vision at the time. But it was a lot of stress. So when you have, and if you're, dealing with somebody else's stress on top of it, just makes it even worse. Um, somebody who doesn't see the vision, but they feel the stress along with me, and then that stress is thrown on top of it. It, it I it, this trip has not been all rainbows and butterflies. There's been a lot of stress and what am I going to do today to get payroll and make a car payment, whatever the case may be.
After a while, it doesn't stress you out as much anymore. I'm not going to die from it. We're going to keep going forward. We'll solve each problem as they come along. So for many normal people, not entrepreneurs, the small things that an entrepreneur deals with would be like overwhelmingly stressful. They'd be awake all night. But since you deal with that as an entrepreneur, high tolerance for pain, or as Elon Musk says, being an entrepreneur or a founder is like eating glass. Eventually you like the taste of your own blood. And I think that's true. You just have a high threshold because after a while you're like, you know what? I don't really care. We're going to keep going. What's the worst that can happen? I'm just not going to stop. High threshold for pain. And I see it with a lot of the founders on YouTube that run very successful eBay businesses. Number 9, we're getting there. 2 more. I like this one too. I put myself in this bucket. But the great founders and entrepreneurs, especially on eBay, are not monetarily driven. They just want to be the best at what they're doing.
Or just be happy.
Hear it. I want to be the best. I was the best. I am the best at this. I'm number 1 at that. They're driven to be the best.
I guess you could still say I'm that way. Before, it was every time I got into something, as I say, find somebody who's doing it bigger than you and shoot that as your goal. Be better than somebody else. But over time, you learn to realize that in order to be happy, all you have to worry about is being better than your yesterday self. And that's where the bottom line comes into play. Sure, if you're still building hard knocks right out the gate, yes, you use that as the motivation. But don't forget that happiness is not always being the biggest or the best. It can also just being the most stable you've ever been in your life.
Which takes a lot of work. If you're driven to be the best, provide the best customer service, provide the best customer experience, get the best product, provide the best packaging, the best this, the best that, best everything. If your goal is to be number 1, the money will follow. If your goal is to make money, you're kind of bass backwards. Money will follow greatness. Money will follow greatness, the best of the best. Great entrepreneurs understand this. They want to be the best. That's their number 1 focus. It has to be, because if you're monetarily driven and something goes wrong, but it's a good idea, you might exit a little bit too quick. If your goal is to be the best in something that is working, money will follow that. It may take a little bit of time for you to build your reputation and build your business up and build your processes up. It will find you. Money will find you. Strive to be the best. Have that competitive, I need to be the best. And if you're the best in your niches or categories, everything else will fall into place. Building that reputation. I see the best entrepreneurs want to be the best, which is why they're the best. None of them said, in the beginning, my goal was to make $40 million. My goal was to make $1 million a year. Why did you build this business? I wanted to make $1 million a year. Those people are not going to make it. It has to be something else, because you'll go through bouts of extreme.
Usually when you think like that, you fall into the hustle category also too, because you're just not just the hustle category, but as we talked about earlier, the person who's all gung ho and all they do is talk, let's go, I can do this, I can do that, but yet they burn out and fade away. So those two kind of fall hand in hand.
In poverty and pain, and awake all night and questioning whether or not you're doing the right thing, questioning whether or not this is comfortable existence you're building for yourself and your family, and whether it's going to work, and you have all these things going through your head. All of us have that. The greatest entrepreneurs have it. No one is.
I had lost many nights sleep over the past 23 years wondering about the business. Hell, even last night I couldn't sleep. I was getting ready to get up at 4 o'clock and come to work, get to work in. I'm like, no, just lay back down. You need a couple more hours.
Resting on their coattails. It's constant. And if all you care about is money, by the time you get to the money that you think that you need, if you get there and you're only monetarily driven, then that's going to be you'll say that's it, that's enough. And times when it's tough, which is most of the time, or a lot of the time, or at least half the time, you'll give up. Money's not enough. It's got to be something else. And number 10, I ended with this one because I think it's great. This requires introspection, so a little bit of self-reflection. But number 10 is great entrepreneurs, great founders don't understand that everyone else isn't like them. You can do courses, you can teach people this, you can teach people that, you can just put it out there and put it out there and put it out there. 90%, 95% of the people are going to fail. They're just not wired that way.
That's why I see courses as a ripoff to people, honestly, because like I've always said, watch everybody on YouTube and take bits and pieces from everybody to create yours. Because if you expect people to follow a blueprint, not everybody can do that. Probably not even half the people who are paying you money to teach them are going to be able to follow that blueprint. Because everybody's situation, everybody's demeanor, everybody's emotions, everything is different. We are complex, yes, yet simple creatures on this planet, complex to ourselves if we don't understand ourselves. And you can preach all you want, day and night, ABC, 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 and you might get 10% that do it. Then you have the dreamers, the ones who put more effort into thinking about it than actually doing it. And there's just a bunch of variety of different people, and everybody is different. Everybody has a different response to the same thing. And everybody is going through something different. That's another reason why you take emotion out of customers, or take emotion out, if you're doing the YouTube, of people responding, is because you don't know what the hell they're going through. What they say and how they treat you says more about where they are in life than it is about what you're doing in life. And that's the bottom line simplicity of the human nature right there. The lady who attacked me on Poshmark, who calling me names and this and that because I shipped an item out really quick and she didn't want it, called me every name in the book, and I just responded with, wow. Nothing more, nothing less, just wow. And moved on with my day. It didn't bother me. Next day, she sent this email apologizing, saying she was having a bad day, blah, blah, blah. Whatever the reasons and or excuses are, everybody is in a different spot. Nobody's walking the same path you are. Not everybody's in the same emotional state you are. Not everybody's in the same stability or roller coaster world. They're not living in that same world. They have their own issues going on. And there are people who just internalize it. There are people who understand it, and then there are people who lash out at others. There's just different mentalities on handling uh, your problems the way that you do. And if you remember all of that, it's very easy to stay even keel when it comes to anything negative or emotional that you get involved in. Um, you don't know where they're at, and you don't need to
Because you
know.
really got to have the first 9 to be that way. And maybe some people have like the first, maybe some people are consistent, but they just can't tolerate the pain that comes with entrepreneurship. Maybe they can tolerate the pain, but they can't be consistent. They list for a few days and then they disappear for a week or two. You got to have all 9 really to really go and do it.
And that being said, too, even being consistent can be tiring. Like for the majority of this year, I've been consistent. I made sure December I wasn't consistent. December was going to be my mental relax. I am going to explore new opportunities with organization to make myself even better with staying more consistent. I am going to just, December is an open book. The sales will come. It's December. Use that to experiment, to think, to free your mind. Just let it flow. And then come January, I'm going to be back at it, hitting it hard again. Um, so even being very consistent and thorough can be draining. Make sure, and I didn't get a vacation this year, so December's my vacation. Remember to take some time off to just be free.
So I think when a lot of people YouTube or they write books, great founders writing books or doing podcasts or doing long form interviews, I can see that a lot of them don't understand that not everybody has that mindset. And I don't know that you can teach that. You kind of have to have all those 9 points. And a lot of the founders I see, even on eBay, that, especially eBay, they're almost surprised that others are not like them. Almost surprised that others are not like them. It's really unique. It's a really unique blend. If you could say to someone, hey, I have a proposition for you. Here we go. 95% chance you're going to fail. You're going to feel broke for the first 3 years. You're going to dedicate every waking hour to this endeavor. Probably only 5% chance it's actually going to work out for you.
That's a good way to look at it.
And it's going to be super painful and super horrible.
But people who want something don't view it as this. So this is kind of I would never view it as this. So it's kind of a cool take to hear this and actually think about it from that perspective, because when you want something and you're going to do something, you don't think about it from this perspective. So that's why I'm liking this perspective here.
And awful and everything else. But hey, sign up for it.
Most people would be like,
no, I don't think so. So anyway,
like that.
That's my 10.
I like that.
And I'm going to jump into the chat, but before I do, a little bit of plug for my own website or my business. Go to Wilson Harbor Sales on eBay or whsstereoview.com. If you want to order something for your friends or your family and they're like really history oriented, or they have an interest in history and you forgot to get them something, if you pick up something from the site, put in the messages Christmas to me, and I'll write a little note inside the package that says that I screwed up the shipping, our business screwed up the shipping, we couldn't get the package out in time. I'll put that note in there, and then when it arrives to your loved one's house or whatever else, you can open it up and say, see, I ordered it on time. They screwed it up. I will take the hit for that. So if you want to do that, just write.
I don't think you ever have to go that far, but that's Josh. All right. Well, there it is. There's the 10 things I've learned from the best eBay and e-commerce sellers video. So make sure you click that original link below if you want to watch the rest of his live from that day. Make sure you subscribe to his channel. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, hit that like button, and give Pee Wee some love. He needs it right about now. So thanks everybody for hanging out, and I will see you all in the next video. Later.